Folks at Florida A&M continue to demand answers from the administration when it comes to the problems they've been facing with their football team, the ban, the need for compliance officers. They had 26 players last week who were ineligible because of various issues. President Larry Robinson being under a lot of criticism from folks. He held a news conference after he met with the students and addressed the news media, much needed. We've been inviting him on this show for the past 3 days. They have not consented to come on, as well as members of the Board of Trustees or the Florida A&M alumni. We'd love to talk with any of them. So here's the president, what he had to say.
As Keith Miles said, good afternoon, everyone. As Keith Miles said, I just had a very informative, productive session with our football team. Of course, they're all males. And it was very productive in the sense that I had a chance to hear from them directly what their issues and concerns are. And probably more importantly, to let them know that we're committed to addressing those issues as well. And went over an hour, and as I said, they had a lot of very good questions, and our team was there to hear them as well, so we can take those and continue the work that we're doing to make this the best experience for them possible.
President, what's the main reason that you wanted to hold this meeting today?
Well, I just want them to know, I talked to them last Friday, right, about our commitment to their success. I wanted to come and talk to them in person and hear what their concerns were in person. I do appreciate the letter that they got, but I got a little bit more of a sense of the passion and urgency around the issues when I talked to them in person. So that's why I came. I want to look them in the eye and hear from them directly and not try to have to interpret from the language in a letter. Okay?
So is this just you listening to them about more with the letter, or do you have an official response to what they were saying?
So we had an opportunity to hear from them and respond to them as well. So it wasn't just a listening session on my behalf. We tried to let them know where services are, what things we're doing for additional services that they need, et cetera. Okay?
And how would you describe their acceptance of your answers, or was it a understanding dialogue, a contentious dialogue at times?
No, I think it was a very understanding dialogue. And one of the things I'm most appreciative of is the professional manner in which these young men handled themselves. Mm-hmm.
What is the university doing to make sure this doesn't happen again? I mean, in 2019, there were 3 compliance officers. There's 1 now. Mm-hmm. What has changed? Mm-hmm. Why has it gone down like that? And what are you doing to make sure this doesn't happen again?
So what is the diss that you're referring to?
In 2019, we had a press conference in the Al Lawson Center when Kendra Green was the head of compliance. Mm-hmm. There was her and 2 other compliance officers. Mm-hmm. There's 1 compliance officer over all of athletics right now. Why the decrease? What happened? And what is being done to make sure this doesn't happen again? Well,
that's not exactly true. There is 1 compliance officer in athletics, but we use our compliance program to provide assistance to athletics as well. Ms. Rika Calhoun and her staff help out with compliance in athletics. And we've also made a commitment to additional staff on her team as well. In fact, we're in the throes of a search process that will result in at least 2 people in the next 30 to 45 days on the campus. But overall, we've committed to a total of 5 additional people to help with compliance in athletics.
Okay. So how many officers, when it's all done, I just want to make sure I have the number right. Mm-hmm. There's the 1 now that's just for athletics. How many will there be just for athletics?
Well, that will be these additional 5 people will be just for athletics.
So there'll be 6 total.
Maybe more, because don't hold me to the number, because if you really want to know that, you have to talk to Ms. Calhoun. But I know we did commit to 5 additional people to work on athletic-related issues, whether it's financial aid, academic progress issues, and so forth.
Okay, so that just won't be for compliance. It's just 5 extra people to deal with academic advising, compliance, just in that.
No, academic advising is separate.
Okay.
Okay, these are compliance people. Okay. We also committed to adding 2 additional people to help with academic advising. Okay. Specifically in athletics. However, the full impact of what we're going to do in academic advising is utilize the 18 other advisors we have for the campus, train them very specifically in some of the nuances associated with athletics, progression issues, GPA issues, and so forth, because that's a little bit different than a typical student going from one level to the next. They have to accumulate a certain number of hours after each year and so forth, which is a little bit different what you normally think about when advising students in general. So that's 2 people to wrap up the advising staff and 5 people on the compliance side.
Thank you.
President, are you familiar with anyone that has been cleared yet?
Well, I can't speak to that specifically because of FERPA issues. All I can tell you is that we're continuing to work with our compliance team, athletic coach, and others to submit additional names to the NCAA for clearance, okay? And we have another 4 or 5 that we'll be submitting as early as tomorrow, right, to hope to get them cleared, perhaps in time for this game, but we don't know for sure because that's in the hands of the NCAA. Okay?
What do you feel is like the most, since Friday, what has been the most troubling aspect of this news that happens surrounding the athletic, FAMU athletics?
In terms of what we are now, I really think that the misconception that people may have that we're not supportive of FAMU athletics in the way that we should, and we don't care about these young men, that's very disturbing to me because I know how much we do care and how much we put into make this program whole, and we're going to continue to do more. But that's what bothers me the most, is that this perception that we don't care and we haven't invested properly in the program.
In a statement that came out yesterday, there was talks of rumors and misinformation dealing with the compliance issues. What in reference is that to? And clear
I didn't issue a statement that referenced, well, here's what I said, that, and I said this to the young men, that talking to them directly, right, gives me a better indication of what their concerns are, as opposed to trying to sort through what's in a letter or what's out there in social media and elsewhere. I cannot, be held accountable for all of that. I want to hear from the young men directly, and that's what I had the opportunity to do this afternoon.
The idea or the allegation that the academic advisement a player got set him up to fail, so to speak, or put him in a position where he is this week, that idea was expressed in that letter. Did you agree with that, or what's your reaction to that, and do you have faith in your academic advisement team?
So we're having, right now, for those persons who feel like they were misadvised, they're speaking with our academic affairs people to see what that was and what might be done if indeed that did occur. It is a bit different, as I said, in the academic advising for student athletes than it is for regular students. And if they didn't get that from the right person, that could have been the case, but I'm not suggesting that it was. All I'm trying to do now is look at the situations that are here now and making sure that our team is working on those on each of the students' behalf.
When do you hope to have everybody on campus, all the extra people you guys plan to hire? When do you hope to have everybody here on campus?
So for the academic, the compliance people, we're talking about, I think about 3 of them will probably be here within the next 45 to 60 days. But for everybody, we're shooting to make sure all these things are in place by the end of the fall semester. Okay. As you know, we're in a very interesting situation in terms of employment, people moving around and leaving jobs, and so it's not as easy as it might sound, right, to get people here, but we're going to do our best to get these people here and underground prior to the end of the semester.
What can you speak to just on, Willie addressed on Monday talking about the HBCUs sometimes have to be innovative because there is a budget shortfall compared to maybe bigger institutions. Can you speak to that and maybe clarify for some people that just don't understand how this happened? What struggles do you guys face that maybe some other schools don't?
Yeah, so the basic issue is how much resources do you have, period. And so some institutions, whether they're HBCUs or not, that have low resources, they have to be very mindful of how they allocate and utilize those resources to get the greatest impact. And then in addition to that, in Florida, as you know, we do have other restrictions on how we can assist athletics with other state funds. And so that's another, challenge for us here in the state university system, in particular for FAMU, because we are a low resource institution. And so we have to look to make those investments in the right places to have the greatest impact. For example, what we're doing in compliance is utilizing our ability to hire those people in our division of compliance as opposed to having them on the athletics payroll. And so although there's one person on their payroll, there'll be a full team of people working to assist the athletics in terms of compliance.
Let's do 2 more questions. Just the whole process. Are you aware of how long it could take, the whole process with the compliance?
Well, I mean, it's an ongoing process, I'll put it that way. And so we're continuing to work with our people and the coach to make sure every reasonable chance that we have of getting a student a waiver, that we get that done. And so we have to be careful, though, that we don't send the wrong message to the NCAA, that we're not doing our due diligence and making sure that these young men, in this particular case, have issues that legitimately give them a chance to play, okay? All right.
I have a 2-parter, if I could sneak in here. First part, just to clarify some of those other details, the number of tickets allocated for families, was that brought up? Is there a resolution there?
Yeah, that has been reinstated at the 4 tickets per person, yes. The AD made that decision just yesterday, okay?
And then, feel free not to do this, but since you're with me, I'd love just your thoughts on the dorm situation with the FAMU housing, having to be evacuated off campus, and the shuttle system in place. Have you been monitoring that closely? Do you have the housing department and the housing system? What's your
So there are 2 situations. One at the Phase 3 facility where we had to move everybody out because there was a
bound to happen, right?
Well, the good thing is not the marching 100. We wouldn't be able to hear anything. But yeah. So in order to accommodate a problem in a very small number of apartments, when you start fumigating and so forth, you can't have people there, and then you just can't do 1 or 2 places because the way pests move, they'll go to the room upstairs or next door, and so we moved everybody out. So those students in Phase 3 will be moving back on Thursday, okay? And then a totally separate issue is the fire that was started in Pokenhorn Village that, activated the sprinkler system and it did some water damage there. And so we're working through that. We've had those rooms, have an outside contractor, helping us, dry those rooms. And in some cases, having to replace wallboard because it was damaged by the sprinklers that were activated. And so those students should be back in the dorms sometime next week, okay?
Just one quick follow-up. The message to the parent that might be a little frustrated about their student having to be shipped off campus, what's your message to them?
Well, in both cases, they need to know that we have provided for them transportation back and forth. There's a person there, an RO, a resident advisor, whatever they are called, to provide some additional security for them. We're providing food for them, the meal plan, and so we have our eyes on them, but they'll be back on campus soon, okay?
Thank you, Dr. Robinson, very much.
Thank you.
The head coach of the Florida A&M football team talked to a local reporter, and he offered his support for his players. Watch this.
I'm proud of the young men, for being able to advocate for themselves. Obviously, there are things that they feel aren't contributing to their first-class experience that we talk about here at Florida A&M. And so to address that is what I think they should do. And as a head coach, it's my job to support them. And they're not alone. There are other students that are coming out and other sports. And so I think the letter is getting more signatures as we speak. But again, it's not an attack on the university. It's not an attack on any individual. It's just like any other national, protest or whatever. These young men are bringing awareness to things that are affecting them, right, at the end of the day. And we have to be sympathetic to that because they are the product. Without the kids, none of us are here. And so, it's important that we hear from them, that we address these needs and concerns. If there are areas that we need to improve upon, let's put our collective heads together and improve them. Because again, we want the best and the brightest to continue to come to Florida A&M like they have for over 140 years. And for us to continue to do that, we have to make sure that every student athletes included, has that first class experience that we talk about in our school motto. I think they just want to have a chance to continue to get their voices heard, right? And, a lot of times they feel ostracized, they feel like they've been silenced. And so this is an opportunity for them to voice those concerns and get some answers, right? And so I'm proud of them for taking the meeting. Dr. Robinson called the meeting, so thankful to him for seeing the need to address these young men. And I think collectively we can be the FAMU that we all aspire to be. We're doing a ton of phenomenal things here at this university. Again, I continue to echo the message that we don't have a football team or a sports program full of bad students, right? We have a couple of individuals that didn't get it done in the classroom, but for the most part, the guys on this football team have taken care of their business in the classroom. And so again, I don't want that to be what people think about these guys. They bleed, they sweat, they cry for this program, for this university, and I think it's only fair that we support them the way that they need to be.
All right, so Larry, Michael, and Jason, I gotta bring y'all in here. The president says, now I have a better understanding of the sense of urgency after talking with the players. Bruh, you had 26 players ineligible last week. When did you get the report that 26 can't play? For all the folk out there, do y'all know college teams, Power 5 conferences have tops 80, 75, 80 players? 26? Last night, I talked about the band issue. Their trip to North Carolina was a great trip for them. They stayed 2 nights, but normally when they go to these classics and other places, they only stay 1 night. So I want to correct that. It wasn't North Carolina. But everything else I said about the issue with the band still apply. I had some fool tell me there's nothing wrong with a nutritious box lunch. Man, ain't nobody trying to sit here and play all damn day and then get your ass on the bus eating a cold-ass sandwich and a box lunch. Larry, what I don't understand is, again, I want the president to come out and sound authoritative, saying, this is happening. We're going to have 5. Well, might have more. We're going to train 18 people. Hold up. Well, who's the athletic? Well, no, you got to ask Miss So-and-so. You the president. What I don't understand is, how does the president not come out and say authoritatively, this is the plan of action we're taking right now. We're doing this, 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 this. The issue they raised about food, this is what we're doing. The issue they raised about summer housing, this is what we're doing. This is what, man, Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, so, I write a lot about leadership, and I've written about, HBC leaders who have succeeded. So this is really about crisis management and how you respond. So first of all, Roland, I want to give a shout out to those young brothers who raised the concerns, legitimate concerns that they did. And I'm glad that they're sound like they're being addressed. So there are a few things here. He mentioned hiring the compliance officers. And once again, we talk about crisis management. It's really important to have a finite number when you're out in public talking. And so that's really critical. The other thing I want to talk about, Roland, is the president has a trustees meeting this week. And he's really going to have to make it clear about what the plan is. So what I like to do is I like to provide some actionable steps. And I got a couple of things he needs to do to address some of these issues. First of all, I think that he needs an audit, someone, a law firm or someone else who's familiar with FAMU, bring in someone externally to do an audit to kind of give them some clear indication of things they need to do, not just this academic year, but move forward. The second thing I think they need to do is he needs to kind of put together some kind of blue ribbon panel of individuals, alum, et cetera, who can provide some kind of blueprint for the next decade after the results come out to make sure that these kind of issues don't happen again. And once again, Roland, this is about crisis management and how you respond to issues. And I would hope that his staff, his administrative staff would have prepped him in terms of being able to be more responsive and clear and decisive in terms of how you respond. The last thing I want to mention, because I'm in the state of Florida, and, in terms of some of the challenges, the HBCUs nationally, particularly state HBCUs in terms of funding, the reporter asked him about that question. And that's an ongoing issue in terms of, we've seen that in Tennessee, Mississippi, Maryland, and other schools in terms of how state HBCUs are treated. So the idea about how HBCUs are funded or not, or underfunded, is a critical one. But I think it's really important by the end of this week that the president has a clear indication of how many compliance officers and what is the long-term plan to ensure this doesn't happen again, because they had something similar happen a few years ago.
I don't understand. If you're the president, I want to know quickly if 26 players are ineligible for the first game of the year, Jason.
Yeah, as you know, I'm on a campus right now. That's where I am. I'm not on an HBCU campus, but I'm on a PWI, and I can tell you that this is a really unfortunate situation that I'm seeing for FAMU, because one of the things that we were all talking about a few years ago is Division I athletes maybe starting to go more to HBCUs, particularly the really elite athletes. And I think the people who are making arguments that maybe they shouldn't do that talked about the resources that they have at some of these major Power 5 institutions, and the fact that they're going to have lots of academic advisors. And it just horrified me when I read the part about the young man who passed all his classes but was still ineligible because he wasn't getting the right advice from academic advisors. I can tell you, I get numerous emails from academic advisors coming from the athletic department at the University of Maryland. So I know how many different athletic advisors that we have here at an institution that's well funded by the state. So I would agree with what Larry was saying, that there needs to be some institutional changes. There are people that need to take responsibility for what happened, and they need to certainly make sure that this never happens again, because not only are people, just like in general, when something happens with a white institution, people look at that white institution in isolation. The University of North Carolina, the University of Maryland, the University of Delaware, they look at it in isolation. When it happens at an HBCU, people look at it as it's representative of all HBCUs. So it's really, and that's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So it's really important that they get this together and work it out, because these young men are being harmed unnecessarily and unfairly. And so they really need to take responsibility and make some changes.
And Michael, that's the thing for me. I don't want a young brother to go, or a sister who plays another sport, saying, man, they ain't got their stuff together, so I'm not going. That's the whole point. This brother, Isaiah, top linebacker in all of FC, top linebacker. Mm-hmm. He chose to come to Florida A&M. You don't want to be in a situation where the next star athlete says, hey, man, look, I don't know. They messed up a homeboy, and he got a 4-game suspension. Now his lawyer is trying to get it reduced, but guess what? North Carolina game was already passed. As I said last night, when you're a star player, when you're trying to go to the NFL, they want to see how you played against other elite players. That brother now does not have the tape to show how he would have performed against North Carolina. That is what will cause future star players to say, hey, man, if y'all stuff raggedy, I can't come. That's why your stuff can't be raggedy.
Exactly. You know, this has wide-ranging ramifications, Roland. And this is at the same time when there was a video that's circulating around hip-hop artists and lecturer David Banner, who I know talked about more African Americans should go to HBCUs, or they should only go to HBCUs, things like this. And you have a push from in the past year, a real push in the past year or two for more elite African-American athletes to go to HBCUs. And we see primetime Deion Sanders has been pushing for this as well. So when you look at something like this, you have, according to the USA Today, you have one academic advisor and compliance officer basically for over 300 students. Okay, one academic advisor, compliance officer for over 300 students. And apparently, some of them are not getting the right advice on how many credits they need to take, the proper classes, and they become ineligible. But also compounding that is their student financial aid is late in being delivered to them as well, which compounds the issue. Okay, so you may not be able to play, and then at the same time, your student financial aid is late, and this is being put into the media as well. So when you are the president of an organization like this, the buck stops with you, and you have to, when you come before the media, you have to come with clear-cut answers, explanations, and solutions. So hopefully they get this rectified, and I agree with Dr. Jason Nichols. This should not be representative of all HBCUs. There are about 103 HBCUs, but this is not a good story. This is not a good look for Florida A&M.
It's not, and the bottom line is you get the stuff taken care of so you don't have any of those future problems. All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?